There is a challenge that is coming from digital currencies such as blockchain technologies.
So I think it's important to share that anything can be tokenized.
All the money.
I like the idea of a gold standard. I mean, it could be used in a very cryptocurrency way.
Very much sooner than a lot of people understand or think. We will be all at a level playing field.
Hey, welcome to the show. I have a guest with me today that I'm very excited to introduce, Robin O'Connell from Uphold. Welcome, Robin. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to see you again. We were both in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago for the XRP event, which was tons of fun. So let's talk about a different aspect of digital assets and blockchain today. So I know many of the conversations that people have, even including Uphold, are more about the consumer/retail participant in the market. Today, let's focus more on the business community. So if I'm a business owner, whether it's a small, medium, or large business, what should I be thinking about in terms of digital assets, and kind of how does Uphold sort of plan to serve that market?
Sure. So first of all, I'm Robin O'Connell, and I'm the CEO of our enterprise unit at Uphold. And it's true, most people know the consumer wallet side, but we've actually had the business side running since I started there in 2015.
Wow.
And so we've always known that it's important to, serve the enterprises and the businesses with the same functionality from a consumer standpoint. And we can do that with something as simple as a business account. And I can talk about, what are some of the use cases for that. And then we also have a pretty sophisticated API that can help do a lot of the functionality automatically. And I can talk about some of the use cases there. But from a business account perspective, you can be, the main sort of groupings that we have of businesses that use Uphold are, you could be an investor that's a business. So, a self-directed IRA would be an example of that. You set up an LLC, you can run it through your IRA, and then you can transact and invest in digital assets. That's
Okay.
one. We have businesses that use us that interact with multiple digital assets, potentially multiple fiat currencies, and then they're using us kind of as a back office treasury mechanism. So
Okay.
they're constantly needing to balance between, let's say, USD and XRP and other digital assets. And we serve as a really easy way to kind of manage that.
Okay.
And then we also obviously have good fiat on-ramps through, bank transfers, et cetera.
Okay.
We have use cases where companies are making payments out to either their employees or their contractors, their affiliates. And so we see this quite a bit where companies, for instance, there's a company that comes to mind based in San Francisco. I think they're in the business of they provide sort of maid services for Airbnb.
Okay.
And they have employees globally, and they use us as a way to pay those employees globally. And so they have a business account, they load funds in USD, and from there, depending on where their employees are, they're asking to get paid in different digital assets. They just use us as a payout mechanism.
Got it.
And so that's another large area where we're used. And then I think I mentioned we're used in a number of ways with API partners where we can handle payments in, payments out, and sort of payments within their project.
Okay. Let's talk about that cross-border use case for a second. So can you please kind of share with us, some people might not be familiar, why that's such a big deal to be able to send money internationally so quickly?
Well, yeah, because what you're seeing is, and let me just focus on Latin America. Latin America has sort of a huge freelancer community. They can be getting paid by a company in the United States. To try to send that across the banking system is slow, expensive, and then they may not even want it to go into their bank in the first place. Why? Because their local a currency, maybe devaluing. It may
Okay.
even get sort of stuck in their bank
You have to have a
through,
bank account.
and you have to have a bank account. There you go. So we're seeing just a lot of demand for the end user wanting to get paid out in a digital asset that they can hold in a wallet, either a custodial wallet like Uphold or a non-custodial wallet.
Okay.
And our system is just really easy to, load the fiat, convert it into whatever the end user wants, either send it directly to an Uphold wallet or send it across the blockchain into their preferred non-custodial wallet.
Okay. And are you seeing there's more of an appetite for native digital assets like an XRP for those types of use cases, or stable coins that seem more familiar, like a version of the US dollar?
I'd say it's 50-50. You'd be surprised. You would maybe guess that they would all want a stable coin. Hey, I earned, $3,000 and I want that $3,000 in a stable coin. But there is also high demand for receiving it in other digital assets that they find stable, or even that they think will appreciate over time. So it's not just stable coins, though you might think that would be the case.
I guess maybe everyone's woken up to the inflation problem with fiat currencies.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so cross-border payments is one use case. Are there any other use cases that the business world seems excited about in terms of digital assets for payments?
Yeah, I mean, we also get requests for, let's say, merchants wanting to get paid in digital assets. That's a tougher one for me. And while we do get demand there, I wouldn't say it's one of the biggest areas of growth, because think about it. If you, let's say, are an XRP holder, you may not want to just spend your XRP to buy XYZ, right? Like you hold that XRP for a reason. So there are advantages to the end merchant to receiving the payment in a digital asset.
Okay.
Chargebacks being one of those reasons, or the lack of chargebacks, and the certainty of the payment. But we do see that. So pay-ins, payouts, and then the other piece is these kind of intra payments that we can handle through, and that's for a variety of different types of projects. So as an example, we work with a company called IMVU. IMVU is a metaverse, and their digital asset, they have two digital assets. One's called Vcoin, one's called Vcore. And what they've done is they've taken their metaverse, which has 8 million monthly active users. They've been around for a while.
Okay.
And in the metaverse, you can buy things, sell things. You need the Vcoin and Vcore to, like, say, buy an NFT, what have you, or to enter a certain part of the metaverse. And we become sort of the ledger for them on the back end to make it really simple for the end user to just interact with the metaverse. They can easily buy the Vcoin or the Vcore. They can easily give it to another user. What's happening on the back end is our API is moving it from one wallet to another. And ultimately, we're the ones providing the liquidity when they want to exit that particular digital asset. So that one we call sort of the ecosystem use case.
Okay.
And that's a more sophisticated engagement, but we love those because you're basically bolting into an ecosystem that's got millions of users. The first one we ever did like that was Brave, the Brave browser, which you're probably familiar with.
Mhm.
I mean, we have 10 million plus wallets that we've set up for Brave over time, and done hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions of micro payments, using that same sort of infrastructure.
Got it. Now, if I'm a business, let's just focus on the US market for now, because that's where we are. And let's say I decide to take payment in digital assets. The current reality is I can't pay the rent on my building in crypto or digital assets. I can't, go buy office supplies down at Staples or whatever. So we still have this need in the current environment to be off-ramping back to the sort of traditional money system.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about your sort of how you're fitting into that market and helping businesses with on-ramps and off-ramps?
Sure. Well, I'd answer that in two ways. So one is we do think it's very important to, allow for the spendability. And so if you're at this place where adoption is such that, it's a two-sided model, like if you can't spend your XYZ digital asset, at the places where you typically spend your money, then you have to come up with another solution. Our solution has been allowing a user to spend any digital asset on a MasterCard. We had, as some folks might know, we had this live in the US. Our issuer kind of got out of the crypto business, but we will be relaunching that in the United States. We actively have a MasterCard in Europe and in the UK that people use. And the great thing is you can just tie it directly to your Uphold wallet, and say you go to Starbucks, it's as simple as being like, oh, I'd like to pay with my XRP balance. And then the conversion happens, and the merchant doesn't know the difference. The merchant just sees it as a fiat transaction, but it allows for you to actually, spend those digital assets, which is super important. The other thing I would say is, you may notice my hat, topper, is we developed a super simple on-ramp where a user can go from sort of traditional means of payment, like a Visa, MasterCard, instantaneously buy, let's say, XRP, and then send it to their wallet address. So, rather than, you might say, well, can't you do that on Uphold? Yes, you can absolutely do that on Uphold. But rather than going and setting up a full wallet, then adding a card and then going and buying it, and then, multiple steps, not all connected, we've just created a sort of a 1, 2, 3 easy widget that allows you to essentially buy it and send it in one action. And we launched with the Sum wallet, XUMM, which is big with the XRP community, and we're seeing it work really, really well. Our big plug, if I may, is that we've processed billions of dollars of card transactions globally with Uphold. We've been around almost 10 years, and so we have a really strong setup. It's completely refined. That's basically where I came from. I came from the payments world prior to 2015, which is also a long time ago. But when I joined Uphold, any rate, so we get higher approval rates, and that's one of the problems with these on-ramps today. We're not the first on-ramp, obviously. And so when we surveyed the market, a lot of the projects were unhappy with the fact that, look, you send somebody through the process and then ultimately it fails. So we're seeing much higher approval rates, and invite your audience to give it a try.
What does that mean, approval rates? Like, what's getting approved?
Your card, basically. So
the transaction is not getting declined.
Exactly.
Like by the bank,
not that it doesn't get declined. I mean, there's certain instances where it's out of our control. For instance, the 3 largest credit card issuers in the United States will, as a policy, decline it. You can guess who those are, and they make up a good portion of it. But they do accept it on the debit side. So it's more of a, hey, they're not comfortable allowing somebody to buy cryptocurrency on credit, but they're okay allowing them to do it out of their bank account, which is what the debit card is.
Okay. Then I'm curious about the logistical process of me spending my XRP at Starbucks. So I have XRP, I swipe my card at Starbucks. There's a transaction or an exchange that happens on Uphold to go probably to USD, right? Fiat.
Right, yeah.
And then does Uphold have to send money from your bank to their bank? Like, how does that work on the back
Well,
end?
that works. That happens anyways. That's how merchant accounts work. So if digital assets weren't there, basically what happens is, um, you know, we would already have like a pre-funded account that it's pulling from, that the system is pulling from to pay the merchant on a daily basis.
Okay.
And that
So
is in
you're
fiat.
still kind of doing the Nostro Vostro stuff on the back end.
Yes.
So do you think, as someone entrenched in this industry, that how you do that will change soon and you will just be doing digital assets for settlement on the back end?
Well, for that to happen, and that does, we actually have done some piloting with MasterCard on just that, because there are pieces of the puzzle that can also be done better and faster with a digital asset on the settlement piece, right? So anytime you're talking about moving money between banks, it's difficult and it's expensive. And so really, I think where the value comes with the digital assets and using a cryptocurrency or digital asset is the ability to move it basically instantly and inexpensively. And the big companies like a MasterCard realize that. So you know, they're open to and actively engaging in kind of looking at how blockchain and digital assets can improve, speed up, you know, improve efficiencies, et cetera.
I imagine it's a complicated topic for a MasterCard because they had pretty sweet deal going for a long time where they got, you know, their 3.5% on all transactions, and digital asset wallet to wallet could be a threat to that. How do you think sort of the major corporate
potentially, but actually what I was referring to wasn't even messing with their take, right? It was more the part that you were talking about, which is, well, how does the merchant ultimately get paid, right?
Got it.
And that's the piece where the settlements that are going on in the background, the movements of money between banks, right? So they're still coming through the bank, and the pricing, you know, is what it is. It's not going to get to what you're saying until there's just mass adoption. And it's tricky, right? Because it's always a chicken and egg problem. You know, the merchants don't care if you can tell them that they're going from 3% to even 0% if it involves any work at all for them, if you know, there are no people actually doing it, right? So if you have enough people doing it, then absolutely they'll pay for it even, right? So that's the tricky part.
So FedNow is preparing to launch, we believe, this weekend. Do you see that impacting anything with you guys and how you move money around?
Are you talking about FedNow?
FedNow, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's great. FedNow, real-time payments, that speeds things up. So if anyone has an Uphold account, we're implementing those things. And basically, what does that mean? It means that, you know, oftentimes you're like, gosh, why you go so slow with with you know, I made a deposit into Uphold from my bank, and why is it taking you so long? It's like, well, okay, but it's not us actually, it's the process. And let me explain, you know, it's the ACH process. The ACH process is absurd, and I can go into the details and explain it to you. But both of those things, FedNow, real-time payments, just speed that up. And so it just makes it easier for us. We don't want to take a long time. We're just reliant on let's say the pipes or the rails from the bank. And so those things would be great for the industry, great for us, great for the consumer.
So after that is fully implemented, let's say a couple, you know, we'll give it a week to just work out its kinks. Like a couple weeks from now, if I were to ACH money from my bank or whatever they're going to call it to Uphold, would it really be within a couple of seconds? Or does there still need to be like
I don't know if it's a couple of seconds. And let me be clear, it's not in a couple of weeks that we're launching with, like, we're implementing it, and it's probably going to be in the next couple of months or something like that. So there's work that we need to do with our bank to integrate in order to offer it up, and we'll make a big deal out of it because it's going to be easier and faster. I don't know the exact time on it, but do you know? Is it like instantaneous, or is it like next day, or?
It's supposed to be within
I
seconds.
mean, FedNow makes it sound like it's right away, doesn't it?
My understanding is
whatever it is will be what we do. But yeah, that's going to be really great, because you see, you know, in other parts of the world, like let's say in Europe, if you make a withdrawal from Uphold into your bank, it's in seconds, in Europe, as an example.
Okay.
And that's just because the systems are different.
Right. In the US, we've had the system where the banking world has made money off the float, which is that time difference between when the money gets taken out of your account and deposited, or it's been an accounting issue, right? Up until now with Nostra Vostra, I just pull money out of one
I
account.
also think it's
and
just
another one.
poor execution on, I mean, the US is way behind on, I mean, you know, India has real-time payments. Every country basically has real-time payments except for the US. So I don't know, what to do. It's probably similar to the fact that we have, still have, telephone lines, and other people kind of leapfrogged us and didn't build the telephone lines and went to the mobile. So there's probably some of that going on.
Fair enough. So let's talk about one of the more macro topics that comes up a lot for business owners who are sort of newer to this space, this idea of tokenization. How do you think business owners should be thinking about tokenization? What industries do you think will be kind of impacted first so that people can have a heads up about this topic?
Yeah, when you ask that question, my mind goes to, NFTs, and just the growth of digital assets. So we believe that, 5-10 years from now, and we've built a system that basically can handle a multitude of digital assets. We think of fiat as a digital asset, right? Because, our whole motto is anything to anything. So you can go from, dollars instantaneously into XRP. Well, that's not that hard because other companies can do that too. But, you can go from a carbon credit into XRP. You should be able to go from Tesla stock into XRP. So it's just, it's an improvement and sort of digitizing of value that you can pinpoint. And if you think about it in those terms, lots of things can be then, commodities, real estate, all of these different things can be digitized, some more complicated than the others, of course. That's one area, and having the functionality to be able to handle that. Now, if I'm just a business in the United States, maybe that's not, top of my list, right? Like, what would probably drive me to partake in something like that would be the consumer demand and staying competitive, for companies that maybe are in the United States, but then are dealing internationally, we see more of that. So that's one. I think the other part is, I'm still a big believer in NFTs. I think that, we have some great partnerships, Mythical Games being one, IMVU, which I mentioned before, being another, where it makes all the sense in the world that, if you're partaking in these digital games and you're either earning or acquiring different digital assets, they should be yours, and you should be able to exit them from the game and hold them and resell them and so forth. And you can only do that with an NFT. So I think kind of the concept of ownership and transferability and doing that across a blockchain and making it immutable, et cetera, is something to keep your eye on. We're seeing interesting reward systems being put in place and using digital assets for that. And we just play the role of sort of the infrastructure, payment infrastructure around that. But, there are lots of businesses where reward systems are key. And so I think keeping an eye on that, and there'll be a movement away from kind of your standard just points reward system into a lot more interesting digital assets that you can earn, et cetera.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that other nations in the world, India as an example, are much further along in terms of the technology around real-time fast payments, ideally using the blockchain. So as a business owner who's based in the United States, sort of what's your view on what's going on with that? Like, is the US going to get its act together and have some clarity to enable some companies to solve these problems, or do we need to be patient and wait?
Well, I think that there's been you just mentioned them, right? FedNow, RTP, those are both really good signs. Those are both things that are going to really speed up, benefit the merchant, benefit the end user, benefit blockchain and digital assets. I think, I know there's a lot of in the blockchain digital asset world, there's a lot of kind of us versus them.
Mhm.
And and it's warranted, right? but I do think that, my feeling has always been that where's the money now? The money now is in the banks, and and blockchain, digital assets. These are technology improvements, and I think that the more we can do as an industry to drive real life use cases, the more we can do to easily bridge between where the money is today and where we think it's going, and
Okay.
making that really simple for the end user. That um, that's where basically this is all going to go.
And do you see digital assets as being complementary to the current banking system or disruptive? Like, is the banking system excited about this, or would they rather it take a long
I
time?
think I think the ones that don't get it are not excited about it and just scared of it.
Okay.
But I think if you just think about it as a technology and a technology improvement, I mean, a lot, most bankers, I would think, would readily admit that the process of sending money from, one country, from the United States to another country, which basically involves multiple hops, using the correspondent banking system. It's expensive. It takes time. Things get lost. It's archaic, right? So I think that, yes, there's probably two answers to that. One is people don't want to change the status quo if they're on top.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that if the benefits are there, and and that's the key thing. If it's faster, cheaper, better, then it'll get adopted. They'll figure it out.
I think one lesson many of us observed was how Blockbuster seemed very resistant to the internet and didn't ever probably expect that Netflix would come along and become what it has today. So I wonder if we're going to see a similar shift where some of the sort of legacy incumbents are going to have this Blockbuster, we'll be fine, and then a
Oh
Netflix.
God, yeah, yeah. There's so many examples of that, right?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, or the publishing industry, you know,
I guess taxis and
newspapers.
Uber were a good
Yeah,
example as well.
yeah, taxis, yeah. So yeah, disruption will definitely happen. I just don't think that, I think there needs to be some working together, especially now as, we're proving out the real life use cases and the benefits of it, that everybody works together and figures it out.
Now, one thesis some people have, which I happen to agree with, is that eventually we'll live in a world where everything is tokenized. Do you see Uphold as being a place where I could, store the NFT for my house in my wallet there and potentially sell that to someone else, or some rights to an oil field that I happen to have?
Oh yeah. I mean, we have crazy, expectations of what we can do, and this notion of anything to anything is real. And I don't think there's a lot of companies that have kind of tried to like piece all of those things together. And it's not easy to do, but the notion, as I said, of going from a Tesla stock to, gold, right? Like, think of what's having to happen on the back end to make that really happen. But just trying to simplify it, and that's really the vision. And then it's not just one thing to another, but it should be anything to anything to anyone, right? And back to the point of it making it easier to go cross border is, okay, if I want to send that gold to somebody, well, gosh, can it just be, I want to go from point A to point B. My point A is gold, and my point B is, my friend in India, and that's instantaneous. And so piecing all that together, I think, is really fun. And I think that is a place where the world can go. And then to fully blow your mind, everything I just described there is kind of like manual action that the consumer makes. All of this stuff with digital assets can be programmatic. And, and I think where you're going to see things go in the future is people can sort of set the parameters of kind of what they want to sort of aim for in terms of goals. And then a lot of things with money will happen kind of automatically. That's another sort of futuristic vision that I think is going to happen.
And let's talk a little bit about how Uphold specifically fits into one of your examples. So I have Tesla stock and I want to convert it to gold. Are you the market maker exchange, or are you working with other exchanges that would facilitate that transaction?
Yeah, so Uphold is not an exchange. We're basically what we do is we are connected to basically every exchange, and so we're able to use our systems and then sort of automatically scour where to get the best deal globally through API connections with all the exchanges, et cetera, and then instantaneously give you a quote of what it's going to be to go from A to B. And it may be we're going from A to B, we're making it look really simple, involves us having to go from A to B to C, or A to C to B, right? And so that's the complexity that's happening behind the scenes that I was kind of referring to, that that we basically have built in order to try to realize and deliver on this promise of a simple digital asset anything to anything world.
And I know one topic that comes up a lot in the digital asset crypto world is this idea of custody. So how do the custody of assets work within Uphold? If I have my assets in a wallet, where are they literally?
Yeah, so all your fiat is in a bank, basically, where it's FDIC insured. And then what we do is we have a variety of different custody partners that we work with. And so at any given time, 95% of all of our digital assets are in cold storage, which is important, right? So the structure of how that's built and so forth is essential. One of the other things I'd point to, and we've done this since 2014 or 15, is we have a transparency page. So if you go to uphold.com/transparency, we've literally been providing a live stream into what we have on the reserve and what our members have on the reserve, and we're always over reserved. So we sort of grew out of, seems like a really long time ago, but in 2013, when the idea was kind of being put together for Uphold, we're coming out of the 2008, 2009 issues with the banks and so forth, and the fractional reserve. And so a key component to Uphold's vision was, look, we got to reinvent that, because that just doesn't work. And it's funny because now or not funny, but it's propped up yet again 10 years later. And guess what? I bet it props up another 10 years later. It's my other prediction, is when you have a fractionalized system like banks, that's an issue. So we're always holding more than what our members are holding. And you can actually go in on the transparency page and see exactly what's being held within Uphold at any given time. And you could wait, and you could refresh, and you could refresh, and you could refresh, and you can see what's happening on the system, which is really cool. Because when everything happened with FTX, I think there were companies that were kind of scrambling to build something similar to try to show, hey, we're transparent about what's happening. But we're like, yeah, we don't have to build that. We've had that up and running for 10 years.
And one of the things that many kind of digital asset businesses, exchanges offer is lending. So what is Uphold's position on offering lending to your clients and businesses?
We have stayed away from that. Which I think is, in retrospect, turned out to be a good move, right? Lending out your assets is burned and taken down a bunch of companies. So we just don't do it. And now the folks who said, yeah, we shouldn't do it, are saying, yeah, I told you so. See, so we just don't do it.
It seems like a very wise move, because many what looked like promising businesses a couple of years ago don't even exist anymore because the lending issue.
Yeah.
Now, I know sometimes companies can't share too many of their plans, but are there any things on your roadmap that we can be excited about?
Well, I'll just making a plug. I'm most excited about Topper.
Okay.
So, because I think it basically bundles components of Uphold into just a super consumer friendly way of, let's say, buying XRP and sending it to your non-custodial wallet. And in the
Okay.
case of, our distribution strategy is to tie into, different partnerships. So we're integrated into Zoom. And so if you have a Zoom wallet, we're just an easy way to buy XRP and put in your Zoom wallet. But we have like 20 different projects that we're integrating with to make it easy for somebody who's got money in their bank to enter Web3. And whether that's a metaverse, a NFT marketplace, an NFT game, a non-custodial wallet, a DEX, doesn't matter. We have just a really simple way of getting you from like point A to point B. And I think that's so important because if you think about Web3, right? And Web3 is great if you have, let's say, a MetaMask and you already have money in it. Because you come across a Web3 site and it says connect your wallet, and you connect your wallet. And guess what? That is a really good user experience. I think it's a better user experience than Web 2, where you come to a site, you sign in, and then it's like, okay, I got to enter all my information and got to put it on my card stuff. It's like, no. I've got a wallet, and it connects and it talks to the site, and isn't that beautiful? But the problem is not many people have the non-custodial wallet, and then less people have any money in that non-custodial wallet. So with Topper, it allows you just to easily get money in there. And what we're doing there is we've launched with Visa, MasterCard, we're adding Google Pay, Apple Pay. We're coming up with all these crazy ways of basically expanding it, growing it, getting more payments options for the end user. And so that to me is the most exciting. But what else can I plug? I already talked about FedNow. Oh, one of the other things we're doing is you'll be able to take money off of Uphold and just send it instantaneously to your debit card. So it's something called Visa Direct MasterCard Send. Have you heard of that?
No.
Where you can it's instantaneous. It's almost like a reverse credit card transaction where you say, oh, I want to take my money from Uphold, and it could be in anything, and I can convert it into fiat and just put it on my debit card. And then of course, if it goes on your debit card, it's going into your bank account. So it's just another way of getting money on and off. And then I'm not sure what I can and can't plug on the consumer side. Lots of cool stuff happening on the consumer side. Maybe
Tell us what's going on the consumer side.
Well, no, I'm saying I don't know if I can't what I can and can't say because I'm not on the
got it. I thought you were asking me. I'm like, yeah, share whatever you want.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it just seemed like there is a lot of acceleration in kind of the world of moving money around. And it's awesome that Uphold is sort of taking such a key role in facilitating this anything to anything exchange. Because that would be one of the coolest things in the world, is that if I have, Apple stock and I want to spend that, obviously you can't really do that literally. It has to go through a series of transactions, but you're kind of creating that user experience for people where they can have an asset of value that gets converted into spendable money, which would be an amazing consumer experience for people, not to have to log into E-Trade and then sell it and then convert that to somewhere else and have all these different steps.
That's right. Yeah. And then I'm sure there are lots of, other examples that we haven't even thought of, right? So it's really about creating the mechanisms, and then, hopefully we'll come up with all those great ideas, but I'm sure other people will come up with those great ideas, and then just having the system that makes that easy for those to deliver, those other, projects to deliver on that would be great.
So if someone's watching this and they don't have an Uphold account yet, what's the best way to get that set up?
Oh, that's easy. Go to uphold.com.
Okay.
We have a website called topperpay.com, and you sort of like, why do you have a different? And the reason is because you can sign up for Topper. It's even simpler than signing up for a fully fledged Uphold wallet. Okay. And so as an example, in the United States, you can basically sign up for Topper and not have to do all the
KYC stuff.
KYC. We're doing KYC stuff, but we're not doing what we call, I guess, the hard IDV, where you have to show the until you reach a certain level. And that's because we're not custodying your assets. We're just buying them and sending them. At any rate, so we're basically going to have on topperpay.com, we'll start driving people there who simply just want a easy way to buy digital assets, and then maybe they don't want to go on to Uphold. They just want to send it to their wallet of choice, which is a non-custodial wallet. We don't care.
I know that in the US we can have Uphold accounts. Are there any, again, I don't know what the right way to ask this question, like what other countries is Uphold in, or are you in most countries?
We're in most countries. We're in about 180 different countries. The issue is that we're not connected to the banking system in all of those countries. So we're connected to the banking system in all the different European countries as an example. And we're adding connectivity in different countries. Canada as an example. So we had to get licensed and registered there. And so we're connecting to the banking system in Canada. There's some countries that we maybe never would want to connect to their banking system, but yet we would support their end user because we can KYC them and onboard them, but then they're only dealing with our on and off rails via crypto or digital.
So they would
assets.
just have to send digital assets to their Uphold wallet. That's from right. Some other exchange or whatever. Okay, cool. That's a lot of countries though to be in, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Robin. This was really cool to learn not only about what's going on at Uphold, but see how the business world can prepare for this migration to the blockchain and send money, make payroll, do all sorts of cool things.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.